Hello, my name is Chris and I'm on the Google for Education team, and today I'd like to spend a few moments talking to you about Google Sites. Google Sites is a great tool that's built right inside Google Workspace for Education that lets you build websites on whatever topics you like, and then you can publish those websites that other people can see them. And today I thought, being Science Week, we'd maybe think about how you might use Google Sites to make something in the science area. So some examples of how you might do this. I've got a couple of examples here. So here's one of some students that were working on building a website for a fictional artificial intelligence science institute. And you can see they've started building some buttons here about, where we've been and where we are and where we're going. And you can see there's a menu along the top, and different pages have all sorts of information on them. So that's one example. Here's another example. You might decide that you're doing a science project and you want to use a Google site as the way that you document your work. And so you can come in here and see that this is a place where you could perhaps collect your information and publish some research you've been doing and make the graphs and things in Google Sheets and then bring them straight into a Google site so you can publish it for everyone to see. So lots of different ways you could use this. And of course, it doesn't have to just be for science. You could make a website that is on any topic. And I want to take you through some of the key things that you should know when you start creating a Google site. So first of all, how do you get started? Well, if you were to go into your Google portal here on the Department of Education website, you can see there is Google Sites right there. But you could also get to it from any new page, any new tab you open up in your browser. You can just click on the 9 dots up here and you'll probably see the link for Sites right there. Or if you really just want to just type it in, you could type sites.google.com, just like that, and it brings up the home page for Google Sites. And on the home page here for Google Sites, you'll see at the top here, there's some templates. So you might want to look at the template gallery and see all the different sorts of templated sites that you might make. Sorry, I'll click here under General. So you can see there's different templates you could start with if you're not sure where to start. But you can also just make your own. I kind of like the idea of making my own, so I'm going to click on this blank button here and create a brand new blank website. And when you start to create a website, it looks just like this. Let me move myself out of the way here and just take you on a little tour of what this looks like. So Sites is really simple. There's only really 3 sections in here you need to worry about. One is the Insert tab. And you can see on the Insert tab, this is where all the different things you can put onto a page are kept here. So you can insert all sorts of things, buttons and spaces and placeholders and lots of things here. You'll notice if you scroll down a bit that Google Docs and Slides and Sheets and Forms and Charts. So this works really nicely with anything else you might already have inside your Google Drive. If it's in your Google Drive, you can put it into this website page. Then there's this second tab up here which says Pages, and Pages is where you create multiple pages. And you can see if I click on the little plus button there, I can create a brand new page, a new link on the page, I can embed other things onto the page. We won't talk about all of these today because this is just getting started, but this is where you create new pages and you create the structure of your website. And then finally, the third thing here is Themes. And by default, there are only a small handful. There are 6 different themes, but you can also use this custom button up here to create your own themes. We may not go into that in depth right now, but just be aware that that exists if you want to have a play with it. So where do we get started? How do we start to create a site? Well, I'm going to pretend we're going to do some work here. We're going to do this on plastic waste. That's our theme today. So we'll type in the heading there, plastic waste, into the box at the top of the page. Now this box at the top of the page, this area at the top of the page is called a header. And you can have different types of headers. You can have a large header, what they call a banner, a large banner, a regular banner. You can have just the title only if you'd prefer, so banner, or you can have a large banner, or you can have what's called a cover, where it takes up the entire web page. So kind of however you want that to look, you can choose to do that. Once you've chosen the type of header or banner that you'd like, you can choose to put an image in the background. And you can either upload your own image or select one from the collection. And the select one here, you can see if I open that up, I get the option here to pick from all those different choices. So I might just go with this ocean theme here, seeing well, it's really concerning all the plastics in the ocean. So we'll try and put that ocean there. There you go. So there's our first heading, and that looks pretty good to me. And it's a really good idea to not have an untitled site. So why don't we go in here and we'll rename that plastic waste. There you go. So we'll give our site a title as well as the name on the top of the page, of course. So that's off to a good start. Now let's just go back to our insert menu here and see the sorts of things you can put on a page. Now, one of the things that makes it really easy right here are these content blocks. So if you know what you want to put on a page and you know roughly how you'd like it to look, you can take these content blocks and drag them out and it'll set it all up for you. So for example, maybe I want to have, say, 2 pictures and a little bit of writing underneath each one. I can grab this here, drag it out onto the page, and when I let it go, you'll see it'll snap into place there as a little mini template that's all ready for me to add content to. So once that is in place, I can click on this plus button here, and you can see I can either upload something to this, select an image, add something from my Google Drive, or YouTube, or calendar, or a map. There's lots of options there. Let's pick a picture that I've got. So I will hit this upload button here, and I've got a little picture here that I will pick, and it's this one here. Not sure if you can see that where I just chose that, but it would be in the picker from your computer. And so you can see there it is. I've just very simply added a picture. I'll do the same thing over on this side here. Hit the upload option, and I've got another picture here I'd like to use, and it's this one here. And you can see that that's added those pictures in really easily there into my page. I can click and edit the text here, and I might add onto here the effects of plastic waste. Okay, so I might just add that in there, and over here I might say the future of plastic, and we might have to come up with some things to put there. Just fix my typing, and of course I can come in here and I can write whatever I like there. So that's a simple way of just creating some content for the page. So making a website, figure out what your theme is, figure out what message it is you want to tell people who are visiting your site, and then you need to come up with ideas about how you will present that information, whether it's best to use some pictures, add some text, and exactly how you'll tell your story. Now, some of the other ways you might like to use Google Sites, let's have a look at some of the other options in here. There's what's called an image carousel. And an image carousel lets you pick multiple images. So if I click here and say select multiple images, and again, I'm not sure if you can see what I'm doing while I'm doing this, but if I just choose those 3 things and say insert, it will pop in here what's called an image carousel. And an image carousel, I can stretch that out to fit the page if I like. You'll notice it's got some buttons underneath there. And in fact, if I go to the gear wheel up here, you can see the 3 images that I've included in this image carousel. And you can go to the second gear wheel and you can change how it behaves. So I want to see the little 3 dots underneath so I can see how many images. If there are captions, it'll show the captions, and whether you want it to auto start, whether it will automatically start playing without you. I do want that to happen, so I'll tick that box. And if it's going to auto play, you can choose how fast it does it. So you've got some different speeds there. It does tend to go faster than you think, so I'm going to slow mine right down, which actually isn't that slow, and say update, and you'll see that that's updated. Now, in order to see what your web page is going to look like, there's this lovely little button up here that looks like a computer with a phone in front of it. And when you click that, this web page will go into what's called preview mode, and it will show you what this looks like as if it were actually published on the internet. So you can see there, you can see the 2 photos that I put in, but down here you can see that that is just changing every so often in my image carousel. And I've got the 3 images in there, and they'll just change every couple of seconds. They'll go around to the next one. The other really interesting thing about Google Sites is although I'm designing a web page here that I would normally look at on a computer screen, you might see I've got these buttons down the bottom here where I can say tablet, and it will show me what this page would look like if I was looking on a tablet, say an iPad or some sort of tablet device. If I click on this button, it will show me what it would look like on a phone. And one of the neat things that Google Sites does for you is that as you build your website, it will automatically set it up so it will work on not only a computer screen, but also a tablet or a phone as well. And it changes the layout and moves everything around to be just exactly as it should be in order to work on those screen-sized devices. Now, one of the interesting things about that is this is not like publishing a word processing document where you can be really specific about where things go. You'll notice when the page is like this for a website, it's a completely different layout than if I go to the mobile phone view. So things move around a little bit depending on the screen you're looking at them on. And so don't get too worked up or hung up on exactly where things need to go on the page, because they will move around depending on the screen size. So it's just something you should be aware of. Now, some of the other things we can add to a page, and have a look down here. You've got lots of things to choose from here. YouTube is a really interesting one because I've actually got down here on my other screen, I've got this video here about plastics. So I'm going to click on this YouTube link here, and I will paste in the link that I've got here. And you can see I've just dropped in a YouTube link there. Now, I've watched this link before. I know it's the video that I'd like to share with people on my website. So I'll search for that, and you can see it brings up here the brief history of plastic. So that's the one I want. I click it and say select, and that then drops that video onto my page. And now once something is on a page, you can move it around. So I want this centered in the middle of the page. So I pick it up, drag it into the middle, and you can see it's added that in there just like that. And when this page goes into preview mode, let's just do that again, go back to preview mode, and maybe we'll look at it on a computer screen. You can see that there is that video, and if I click the play button, it will start to play that video for me. So adding videos to your page is really easy. It just needs to be on YouTube, or you could also add a video from your Google Drive if you'd rather do that instead. So you might have a Google Doc, you might have a Google slide presentation, you might have a spreadsheet with some graphs or some data you'd like to present as part of your science project. You can just really easily add those in there as well. If you'd like to survey your users, your people who interact with your website, you want to ask them some questions, you could create a Google form and you could add the Google form to the page. So all of these things in the list on the side here are ways you can add content to your page. Now, you might want more than one page. Remember, we've got this button up the side here that says Pages, and this is where we currently only have a home page, but I might want to put a second page in here. And many websites have a page called About Me or About Us, and it will tell you about the people that are making the website. So let's add one of those. So I'll click on this new page button, and I'll call this About Us, and say Done. And you'll notice two things happen. It creates that page. It duplicates the header that we had on the first one. I could change it to something else if I wanted, but often it's good to keep the same header at the top of every web page. It just helps your viewers or your visitors to your website have a sense that they're still on the same page. They're not jumping around to a different website because it looks the same. And you'll notice that it's also created a second option in here in the menu. So we now have a home button that takes us to the home page, and we have an About Us page that takes us to the About Us page, where we could come back here to the insert option and start adding more content to this page here. So I don't want to tell you what you should be putting on your website pages, because you can put anything on here you like, but I just want you to understand the process of how you go about making a site. So just to recap, we created a site. We went to sites.google.com. We made a new site. We chose the type of header we wanted and the type of image that we wanted in the header. And then we simply use the insert menu here to start inserting content onto our site. You'll notice too, just at the top of here, if you just want to add a text box to type some information, there's a text box here. You can click text and that will add a blue box there. you can type here. Okay, and so you can add text to your page. Of course, you've got some editing of the text at the top there, so if you want to change the way that looks, you've got some different styles you can pick from, so maybe that's a title, and you can change its size and shape and bold and italic and all the usual things you can do. So that is all there. If you'd like to add an image to your page, there's a button there. Embed is if you want to bring in content from another website and put it onto your own. That's a little bit trickier to do, but there's a button there if you want to check that out. And importantly, there's a Drive button on here. So anything in your Google Drive that you'd like to add to your site, and let's just have a look at that. Let's just click on that Drive button, and you can see that then takes me into my Google Drive. And so anything in here that I'd like to use, I can now use and embed directly onto my site, including whole folders. So I might, for example, choose this drawings folder and say insert, and it will actually add the Google Drive folder onto my page. And maybe that's a bit bigger than I really want. I could make that slightly smaller if I wanted to. Drag that up there, and I can maybe even move it to the other side of the page. So you can move things around, just pick up things, drag them to new locations. That then brings me to, the whatever content was inside that Google Drive. And the neat thing is that if I go and change what's in my Google Drive folder, it will change here on the website as well. So useful to know. Now, if you do share a folder or any sort of Google document onto your site, make sure that that document is set so that people with the link can view it. If you put a document into a site but don't share the document, then people won't be able to see the document even though they can see the site. So be careful of that one. And then finally, the last thing you need to do is to publish your website when it's ready. So there's a publish button up here, the big purple button. When you click on the big purple button, you need to give your site a name. We'll call this Waste Plastic. And you can see you then choose who is allowed to view your site. Now, this may be different for you than it is for me, depending on whether you're a teacher or a student. If you click on this Manage button here, you have the option to publish your site, and you can say who is allowed to see it. Now, you might be restricted to only people within the Department of Education. So in other words, you can't share it outside of other schools or the school system. But you might have an option for public. If you do, then you could make this a public site. You may not have that option if you're a student, or you can restrict it to only specific people if you like. So that's a choice you need to make in terms of publishing your site. I'll just say done there and publish. And that site is now publishing directly to the internet and sharing it with the group of people that I've allowed it to be shared with. So that's useful to know. And just the last thing, we often talk about collaboration and working together in teams. Just like a Google Doc, there's a share button at the top here, little head and shoulders with the plus sign, and you can click that and you can add specific people here that you'd like to work on this site with you. So if you're doing a group project, teamwork, collaborating with your classmates, you can invite them in and all work together on this project together, just like as if it were a Google Doc. And you'll see people moving around, all working together on the site. And that's about all I've got for you right now. That's a little introduction to Google Sites. Like I said, we're using it for a sciencey example for Science Week, but really you could use it for any purpose at all, anything at all where you're trying to convey information to an audience, and a website is the best way to do it. So good luck. I hope you figure out lots of cool things to do with it.